Hello everyone. Welcome to Growth Mind State, where we're talking the topics of the day and this week in the most educated and open-minded way that we can. I'm Anthony Thompson. Joining us is Robert. Sorry
Katrona, it's
about
okay.
that. You introduced me. Yeah, I know. I mean,
Katrona,
I
yeah.
was like, I felt it come out wrong.
Yeah,
So
it's
let's
cool.
introduce ourselves.
Yeah, I'm Robert Katrona.
Teresa Concepcion.
Nice to see everybody again. Hope
Yes, it's
everybody's
good to
doing
see
well.
everybody. I know that we didn't get to do our normal wellness check, so I'm gonna ask the question anyway. How are y'all doing? How's everything going with you? The world is turning at a very interesting speed, in my opinion.
It's been a stressful week, but I made it here. We should have, I should have been here yesterday, but we're making up for it today. so,
I'm
Yeah.
good. Less than Less than a month, and Trump will be out of here.
mm-hmm.
Getting better every day.
Which is one of the topics is going to be Trump delusion. There's a delusion amongst those people, which is 74 million people, right? But it's a lot of people who are falling for the delusion of Trump could still win this, even though today, as we're not going to cover this really, but the Electoral College confirmed that the 270 votes go to Biden. So that's all that really matters in a traditional sense of the word. But we want to make sure that you see that the delusion that has occurred during the last couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about the Trump coup that we wish was over, but is not quite over. CME's group is trading water in on the stock market now in California. Facebook being sued over allegations over acquisitions that they had, and also allegations about the disinformation that Facebook and Twitter have. Just the changes in our media services over the future global environment, which could also, I just wanted to make it a global discussion because of how much it affects other regions, like rural areas of China, is what we're going to end up talking about. And then finally, which I believe is a more interesting change of path for Disney and all these other units, Disney's announcing a landmark deal with a collaboration called Kugali, who's an African continent group of animators. So that's my happier story about how things change because some pressure from the outside can help.
yeah, sounds
Let's
good.
start though with the let's start with the pressure from within though, which is watching this video of the Trump supporters being delusional in Georgia, which is for them a very important state to win because I think Republicans can still win Georgia if they wanted to. But let's throw it up to this first video and see the mess that we have right now.
Are you going to vote?
I don't know yet. If it's going to be the same counters and the same Dominion machines, I may not. And if I don't see the Republicans thumping for Trump, I'm not voting for them.
Two critical runoff elections in Georgia next month will decide what party controls the US Senate. But some Trump supporters here still falsely believe Trump didn't lose this state in the presidential election, and they don't think Georgian Republican Senate candidates are standing up for Trump. Some folks are saying they're not going to show up.
I understand them because we're pissed.
Did you vote, sir, in the presidential election here in Georgia?
I did.
Who did you vote for, if you don't mind me asking?
Greatest president we've ever had, Donald J. Trump.
And he lost.
He didn't lose.
He's gonna win.
Are you kidding me?
He ain't gonna lose.
Do you plan on voting in the Senate runoffs next month?
I do plan on voting in the Senate runoff.
For a Republican, I take it?
I don't know at this point.
So you might not vote Republican in January?
I don't vote for a party, okay?
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, the Democrats and Republicans can all go to hell.
Because if you don't stop this fraud of an election, you don't have our back, so why are we having yours?
If I were chair of the Republican Party and I hear you, a Georgia voter, a conservative, a Trump supporter, a Republican, saying they might not vote, I would be freaking out. I would say, oh my God, are we going to lose this to the
That's
Democrats?
the point. That's the point. Those two Republican senators need to get their asses out of their office and start thumping on the streets and demanding a real recount, not a fake recount.
Do you trust that next month's election, the runoffs are going to be fair?
Not 100%, but I'm still encouraging people to vote because if they don't vote, there will absolutely be nothing to sort out and we will have gifted the election to the Democrats.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that made
There's
sense.
so much to unpack.
Yo,
There's
the
so
only-
much to
For Trump.
unpack.
Let's
Yo.
stump for Trump.
The only thing that made sense was what she says. Well, if they don't do anything, they're gonna give it up. That's the only thing. Everything else was just like, oh my god, like these people are, I don't know, cult members, man, and I don't know, it's crazy. And they don't want to.
You know what? I think the best piece of advice is don't vote. Don't
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah.
Don't vote for them.
It's funny. They were saying, oh, we're not Republican, but those Republicans got like they seem Republican. You know, like they want the Republican things to.
Dixie
you know,
hat. That's all I gotta say.
Love
Had
that
a
guy. What are you
Southern
talking
flag
about?
Right on that hat.
Yeah.
I don't vote for Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah. I don't vote.
Don't
even
vote.
though I vote.
That's great. Stay home. We want you to stay home.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man.
I'd rather that than them coming out and trying to put these Republicans in there. Let's get this. Let's get it swung for like what, the first time in how many years? I think it's been like 40, 50 years or something like that they said it's supposed to be. If it
It's about
does go
60 years,
Democrat,
yeah.
yeah. Go ahead, stay home.
I mean, and what I find fundamentally obscene is that it's important that they have a black person in there, but it's obscene that like there are black Trumpers out there in Georgia, and they're willing to go out there for the cause, basically. And I don't understand what they believe anymore, because it's no way that you can't change the Electoral College. And I feel like they want it two ways. And that's why the next one is a representative. I want to show the government even wants it both ways. We've had lost popular votes before. We just had it with Hillary Clinton. She won the popular vote. So the idea that now it hurts their feelings, and they're they're literally yelling at representatives to be like, you gotta go against all logic right now.
Go
Right
against
now,
the whole
don't listen to
country.
logic
It's
at
what
all.
we want. The whole country. They
Are
don't
we
care.
supposed to be the snowflakes though? What does that make them? Bubbles?
Yeah, it's funny that it's like they get pissed when we protest, but they want to go out there and yell and scream and go crazy over this with no justification. Like, honestly, there's no way they're gonna, they would have won. We got the courts against it. We got everybody against it. Yet, at the end of the day, it's like they still feel like there's some way they're gonna win magically, and it's pretty crazy, man. These people are bonkers.
I think the most bonkers one is the president himself, still trying to every lawsuit he can out there. They
That's
said
for money,
something about
man.
the collective eye roll of the Supreme Court, like, no, this isn't gonna work either.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's just trying to make some money. That's all it is. At the end of the day, he's banking. Withdrawing from the bank. Because he's leaving next month or whatever it is. So he's got to make sure he pulls out all his money with as many little fees as possible. He wants to get everything he can. That guy's funny, man. They're all funny.
Before we go to that representative from Alabama who wants to continue this still for some reason, I want to double down on what Teresa just said about the one Republican who is not a Republican per se. He is literally voting towards the cult of Trump, and he's literally saying that other representatives should be Trump supporters or else. And that makes me understand what has been going on for the last couple of years. I think I already knew this, but it's important to see it. Like, oh yeah, you don't support the Republican Party. You just love when there's a strong man in office, and then it is aligned with your thoughts.
Yeah, they love this guy.
So you want to send it up to? Oh yeah, please. Sorry, I cut you off, Teresa.
No. They love this guy. They don't care that he's Republican. They don't care what he stands for. They just love that the ignorance that he spouts out from himself is just, it's their kind of talk.
Yeah. They're just nuts, man.
So
they're drinking the Kool-Aid, man. There's nothing else to say. Like, I don't, first they were like, oh, we're gonna prove them that we're right. We got all the evidence, and now like all the courts have said, no, you're not supplying us with the right information. It's not gonna go anywhere. They're still delusional, man. It's crazy, man, and that's scary because crazy people are the most dangerous people in the world. That's I'm afraid, a little bit, but hopefully. They're all talk, we'll see what happens. What was I going to say? Okay, gotcha. Thank you, sir. Here we go. Next video.
Alabama Republican Congressman Mo Brooks joins us now. He's made headlines in recent days with his plan to challenge the 2020 election results on the floor of the Congress. Congressman, explain first how you plan to do that.
Well, under the United States Constitution, Article 1 and Article 2, along with the 12th Amendment, the United States Congress is the ultimate judge and jury, the final arbiter of all election contests involving federal officials, whether it be congressmen, senators, or President of the United States. And so there's a process in place by which we do that, and that process is initiated on January the 6th, beginning at 1 p.m., when we have a roll call of the states to a combined session of Congress presided over by the Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence. And at the appropriate time, when a state's name is listed and they submit their purported election results or electoral college vote, then if a House member and a senator concur and we object to that particular submission of electoral college votes, that triggers a 2-hour floor debate in the House and the Senate, and then a vote on the House and in the Senate on whether to accept or reject those election returns.
Which states do you specifically plan to challenge?
Well, I'm not limiting myself, but by way of example, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, Wisconsin, maybe Arizona.
And why are you challenging in those states?
Because their election systems are so badly flawed as to render their reported results untrustworthy.
So also a lot to unpack there, because that was only 2 days ago. So at the moment, this guy really believes that he can change the outset by bringing this to Congress when the Electoral College confirms the votes. So that's what happens first. It happens in stages. So the Electoral College just did it today, where they confirmed the amount of the of 270 is actually above that. It's 272, I believe, that they confirmed. But then you go to Congress and you have to it's literally just a move to do a legislative pause. Basically, you're just pausing Congress for 2 to 3 hours, because there's no way anything is going to change through that. So it's performative. And this performance that they keep doing is enraging. And I mean, like, bringing up the worst attributes of the Trump supporters. And I don't know what to do, because the rallies that happened this weekend in Washington show that right now. Like, they believe the Kool-Aid so deeply that they are willing to go to Washington with weaponry and look like, I know they call themselves the Proud Boys, but they're the weakest boys I've ever seen. That's all I gotta say. They did a lot of damage, though.
Sorry, I muted myself and didn't realize it. What was I gonna say?
Gotcha.
The funny thing is the way they act is ridiculous. If you see them and the things that they say and do in public, to like kind of like, oh, we're big and bad and blah blah blah. You look at them like, man, these guys are clowns, man. Like their whole demeanor and like the things that I saw a picture of somebody like running FNTFO or whatever it is on their butts. I don't know if you saw that picture. Yo. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make you look tough, man. That makes you look crazy, man. Looks like a bunch of childish behavior. I had to check myself. Yeah, man.
I had to check myself. I was thinking about putting that up because it's so ridiculous, but it's making its rounds, so everybody knows that they're.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Did you see it, Teresa?
No, I didn't see it.
Yo, they were basically mooning, but on their butts they had the FN. It's crazy. People are stupid.
I don't know. I mean, the whole theatrics of everything, I think that they're all putting on this show because of these crazy Trumpers. They don't want to lose them. They don't want to lose their support. So they're like, okay, we're going to pull out all the stops. I mean, you heard them yourselves. You're not out in those streets thumping for Trump. We're going to get rid of you. We're not going to vote for you. So they're going to hold on.
Yep, there's a lot of violence.
They're going to hold on to their people, their base. This is their base now. They've inherited it even past Trump time. They're going to inherit this. These are their people.
I mean, and that's actually the hardest thing about this Biden administration and Congress that's coming in, is that we don't know. We know that we elected one person who is into the Proud Boys and all of that, but will they realize that they have a base of crazy people?
Yep.
And they have to either placate to them, or they have to try to change their mind on a lot of issues. Like, there's just certain things that we just need to get done as a country, and being at a complete pause all the time, like saying that we're just Like, I'm surprised that the omnibus bill, I hate war, but it's a bill that gets passed every year. I'm surprised that Trump might veto it, and there'll be no relief in any way because they tagged on a lot of stuff. They always tag on a lot of stuff to the omnibus bills. So yeah, I mean, it's for war, it's to give them pay raises. It's very important to note that, but it also means that there's going to be some kind of structure afterwards to help regular people or small businesses.
Yeah.
It's something. I hate to say that I don't enjoy watching Democrats not do anything for us as a whole. Like, they could have put in a much more powerful deal, but they can't hold out.
You're not used to it by now?
There you go.
They said that a lot of that could have been used for saber rattling, you know, like for him to like, oh, I'm not going to do this. I'm going to veto this so he can get his way. But at the end of the day, they feel like he's probably going to, you know, back down and not, he'll have them, the bill pass or whatever. It's crazy. This dude is crazy.
Nothing's going to change either when, Joe gets in there. The by Biden ship that he's going to end up putting in because, he's going to want to try to unite the side. No, you can't unite with crazy. Sorry. We already see you. We see you for your crazy. Yes. We see you for your racism. It's done. It's over. And he's going to squander away the first 4 years. And then we'll see about what happens in the following 4 years after that, because who knows? Might get a Trump round 2, Yeah. People love to forget. They love to forget.
All right, let's cut to the next video and see what's up.
Yeah. And this is why I don't go to demonstrations too often. So, can we pause the video actually right there?
1 second. I can't. Oh man. Let me see.
No, it's okay. Then we'll talk about it right afterwards. But I
mean, I can. I don't have it set up. There we go. Sorry about that. Go ahead.
Honestly, no, it's all good, because that really just shows you how intense this kind of conversation is going on. Like the small group of Proud Boys, it's a very small group of Proud Boys, but they apparently are violent and ready to go. And then there's all these other demonstrators who have gotten to the point where their tactics have to be to guard themselves at all times. So if you notice how much of the anti-Trump demonstrators are basically, I mean, they might be even Black Lives Matter. It doesn't really say here, you know what I'm saying? It's like it kind of gets lumped together in this kind of society right now, but they have to guard themselves with like shields in the front line. They're just waiting for the cops at this point, and the cops are there protecting the Proud Boys. They're literally flanked around them, protecting these people. And it's interesting, who do we give the power to? It's clear that the government, or at least these local governments in DC right here, like the police, are saying that it's more important to just protect these people no matter what they say and what they do. And that's a great thing. That's an important job for a cop, right? To have the ability to not go after the people saying probably very negative things about you. Most of those Trump supporters aren't really fans of the police either. It's just they're fans of the police when the police protect them.
Sorry, bear with me.
Yeah, but what kills me is that it just says so much when it looks like the police are just protecting them and that's it. And you know, okay, those are your people, so those are your boys. That's what it looks like. You don't want people to feel like that, but then at the same time, you're protecting these guys, and it's like, I don't know if it's you're protecting them from themselves. Is that what it is? Because they have weapons, they have stuff to protect themselves with. So it makes me think like, okay, they're there to make sure that they don't step out of line and then make them all look bad.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we know that some of these outfits of police officers fall further in line with like the Proud Boys thinking. So I agree with you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Like, I think a cable was loose down there, and I had to fix it. But yeah,
Gotcha.
do you want me to hit play? Let it go on a little more.
No, you can actually move to the next video if you want. It's really just the same thing. It's really just for me yeah, you can move to the next one
Video,
because I just want to describe what happened.
Okay, so VC8, right? Here we go.
Yes. So the reason that I'm even showing this right now is because you can see how large the demonstration is. And you can tell that they're trying to separate all of the people who are anti-Trump demonstrators out of it, anti-MAGA Trump. And then, unfortunately, 4 people were stabbed. So this is the aftermath of that.
Did you see?
Yeah.
Did you see the video of the guy they surrounded? And I think there was a guy who was they if you look at Status Quo, because I follow a bunch of different people, I saw a video that they had filmed that they had this one guy. I guess he might have been. I don't want to say he was Antifa or Black Lives Matter because I don't know what he was. But a bunch of Proud Boys and some people were surrounding him, and they started tormenting him and hitting him and stuff like that. And he happened to have a knife, and I think he actually stabbed one of the Proud Boys, in that instance because he was getting jumped. You know what I mean? Basically, there was also a couple of other videos that I saw where let me cut back. I guess let's. You want to finish this video, or do you want to cut back?
No, it's okay. Let's just talk.
So let's get back on. So there was a video of a guy and his girlfriend, and they were walking. I don't know what provoked whatever, but they started beating up the guy in front of the girlfriend, and she was just like, "Please leave us alone, or whatever it is." And they just wouldn't stop. And then eventually somebody had came and like kind of escorted him out of there, but they really lumped him up. You know what I mean? And the guy didn't look like he was any threat to anybody. They were telling him, "Oh, get out of here! Don't you ever come back! Get out of here!" Like that type of thing. So maybe he was affiliated with one of the anti-Trump protesters, but either way, it was just him and his girlfriend. It makes no sense that there were a bunch of them just lumping them up, like maybe like 8 or 9 of them, like in the area. Yeah. So.
I mean, this is the problem with lumping people into quote unquote Antifa, whatever they want to call it. I mean, the idea of it being already anti-fascist is that it's not a group that is settled together to create chaos. It's actually made to go against the fascist extremes that are coming up right now. So it's very difficult for me to even deal with it on a logical level because they believe that Antifa is some kind of organized group. And if they don't believe that, they actually just love to create as much chaos as possible.
Yeah, they think they're like anarchists or something. Like they're like, oh, they're here to destroy the country and da 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 da. I'm like, Hitler was a fascist. We hated Hitler. Remember that? I mean, like it wasn't that long ago, and we were all used to say, oh, we disliked Hitler. Now all of a sudden, we're trying to say that our president is doing similar actions and you're supporting it. I'm like, that makes absolutely no sense. And then like I get into a lot of discussions on Facebook and a bunch of other places where people trying to explain to them that it's just a term that means anti-fascist. It's not a group. Oh no, they're a group. They go and they riot and they start problems. They're like anarchists and they trying to make things. turn into communist China, and like, I get all this crazy stuff, and I'm like, yo.
Well, I think it always comes back to what we always talk about, which is the lack of education in this country. They stopped teaching history. They stopped teaching a lot of things to make us dumber, so that nobody can see these parallels that are being formed. We can't see that, and it's leaving us in a space where Trumpers and all these radical people, real radical people, are coming into play, and history will repeat itself. We say it all the time, and it's going to happen again. I think there's not even that many people that were part of the Holocaust that are still alive to this day. So, you've got kids that don't believe that it's anything but like a movie. The same thing with like Titanic. Titanic didn't really happen. Holocaust didn't happen. Soon it's going to be slavery. Never happened. What are you talking about?
Well, that I've actually heard that one before. That it was in indentured servitude, and not that slavery itself didn't exist, but that the principles of slavery weren't as bad as slavery is.
You guys are treated great.
I've heard that argument before. Yeah, it's a scary argument because
Education.
I just want to make sure that we get this in because this is important information. The 4 victims are reportedly in critical condition right now. A total of 8 people were transported to local hospitals, including 2 police officers. The officers' injuries are said to be non-life-threatening. 2 other people were treated with minor injuries. So that's 23 people were arrested. Let's see. Yes. So 23 people were arrested, according to AP, as fights broke out. And yeah, there was a litany of stuff happening on Twitter about this, and like literally just small videos of what's going on. But I mean, that's what we have right here. 4 people stabbed right there, 23 arrested in a clash. And I actually have not been going to the rallies. I mean, New York City is a bigger issue if you want to talk about rallies in New York and how that's not really effective. But these real protests in Washington are important, but I'm afraid because I feel like these are going to continue to happen during a Biden administration. There are enough people who are upset with the status quo that they're willing to go all the way to Washington and have a fight with somebody.
They said that the Trump all these people liking Trump and everything else, and they stop the steal people or whatever it is, they're actually going to really disrupt the Republican Party itself. They're saying that, like there's certain beliefs that are differing, like you see what's happening with Fox News and other news organizations. It's like similar to that happening is the actual Republican Party. Some people believe it should go a certain way, while others are believing that it should go in another direction, more, like peaceful and like whatever, and like, kind of like more bipartisan type of mentality.
It's more centered. It's more a neoliberal feeling about how we should be a slow progressive state.
Yeah. And there's actually there was a Republican. I forget the congressman's name. I hate the fact that I don't remember a lot of these things, but I read or saw something about how he was kind of disappointed at the fact that they're going in this direction, and they're Trump should have accepted okay, I lost and whatever else, and that he's literally destroying the party with all this chaos that he's creating.
Destroy it. Destroy it.
I hope they destroy it too,
because
like I've never really I don't have anything against Republicans in general. Like there's decent ones out there that they believe certain things, and pro-life and so on and so forth.
You made your bed with a fucking racist. You made your bed with a fucking racist.
Pretty much.
And guess what?
But that's not all of them. Not all of them.
It's most of them. Most of them. They've gone through party. There hasn't been a time where they've gone through party favoritism, and they put aside what's best for the country. That's what kills me. They have put aside what is best for the country to be behind this man who is a blatant racist and wants to see this whole thing burn. Like, come on. What is wrong with you? I have no time for none of you. No more. That's it. I hope he takes you all down.
You can say a lot of that about Democrats too, though. Democrats
absolutely.
That thing we were talking about earlier. Like, I actually did a little more research on that AOC thing that you had brought up about Jimmy Dore, AOC, and all these other people, and I started thinking about it, and they were talking about how, I mean, I don't want to get too much off a topic, but we need to fight to get the things that we want to get. You know, AOC and the squad, they're the best thing that we have at the moment. But at the same time, they've been complacent with some of the things that are actually, I was kind of, you know, for them, but then I started listening to like what Kyle Kalinske was talking about today, and saying like if we don't call people out, we don't know who's actually hindering the party, like who's stopping us from actually making progress. You know, they say it's okay that people want to say that we support it, but unless they put a vote on it and actually see who's for it and who is against it, because you know, like if you put a vote on it, that means they got to tie their name to something on paper, so that you know. And a lot of people could talk the talk, but once it's time to vote on something, that really signifies that they're really for something. You know, if they don't put their name on it, then that says, okay, these are the type of people that we have to question in the future and maybe primary and future elections, because these people aren't going to necessarily vote in the direction that we want them to. And AOC had said, we kind of got to play nice, and in some ways we do. But there's nothing wrong with holding some of these people accountable in certain situations, and that's the thing I got from the whole discussion that they were talking about. And a lot of our parties, both parties do that. They have their beliefs, and then they have, they don't hold any of their politicians accountable. Even the Republicans, it's the same thing. They believe that things should go in a certain direction, and they just go with the flow. They're like, all right, party over everything. It's not even, like we really deserve more money. You'll hear a lot of Republicans say, sorry, that we should have health care or whatever, or certain things during this time. These businesses should stay open and blah, 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 blah. And then they start talking like socialists. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it's like these are Republicans asking for things that communism and socialism usually provides to their people, and it kind of contradicts what they want to believe in. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure you get.
Yeah, I'm actually just gonna here to combat. So I understand. There's a couple people who have the same standpoint about Kyle Kalinske, Jake Huger. A couple people have said that they don't have to. You don't have to 100% agree with Jimmy. The thing is that I think that on principle, the idea.
I agreed with him. I thought I didn't agree with him. I didn't agree with him. I'm sorry to interrupt.
But I think we get to a point where we actually have a disagreement here. But
okay, go ahead.
Because
explain.
I think it's a little performative right now. There's literally 8 people in the House that are known progressives. So yes, getting people on paper works, but you can shuttle Medicare for all. It will not happen if it doesn't pass in the House. So basically, by doing a performative action now, you might cause damage, irreparable damage, to it actually coming to a vote later.
Yeah.
So that's the real contention, though, I think ended up being more personal. Like people were making very personal attacks that weren't founded. So like, I agree. I think you should put pressure on them. I think that at some point you do have to have Medicare for all as a real vote. I don't agree with the timeline. I feel like you did have a lopsided Congress, and it's not like AOC was a freshman representative. So it was almost like you're going on attack to the one person who is just now the center of progressivism. Like, and it's not on her. It's just the fact that she won a hard election. I mean, she won it really easily, but she won a hard election. So it's almost putting too much pressure on this one person to be the fundamental progressive for everyone. But honestly, I don't disagree with like challenging them. And I believe that they should bring it up to a vote at some point. I just don't know if now is the perfect time. It's a lot of strategy, right?
Yeah, but then you'll have those same people, not same people like in regards to them, but just in general people say, if not now, when? You know what I mean? Like 10, 20 years from now, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, I get why people are annoyed about it, and I understand why Jimmy, said what he said in that sense. I really don't agree with a lot of the crazy stuff he's been saying lately, but when I started listening to it and like applying it, I'm like, at the end of the day, it's like at some point we got to put our foot down. It's the same thing like with the stimulus and everything else. People could talk, and then things keep going, and next thing you know, it's months, years down the line, nothing's happened. So it's like, when do you actually say, okay, screw this, I'm gonna, actually make a change at this moment? It's like, it's kind of like a really, hard time, and not hard time, a hard decision to make, because you don't want to like put your foot in your mouth, like start something and then find yourself like, wait, I should have would have done something differently, and it may have resulted in something better down the line than if I did something aggressive now and basically shut everybody out in the future. You know what I mean? Like look what they did with Bernie and everything else. They basically like, oh, he's a communist and this and that and whatever. So, God knows, like, if AOC were to actually be extra aggressive, eventually maybe they'll get shut out. You know what I mean? And it's kind of scary to think that, you can't speak your voice, your feelings in this country and say, look, we really need healthcare. We really need decent wages. We really need, the environment to be clean and healthy for our children's future and better education. Like for some reason, people think it's unreasonable in this country. They say, well, if you want this, you have to have money and you have to be in the right place in the right environment and you have to do the right things in your life. That's not really fair to put on people in general when society is as screwed up as it is. Like, look at how it is now. We got all these deaths from COVID and everything else, and yet we're not getting any support from anybody. It's all talk every month. Oh well, now they're going on vacation again. Wait a minute, like. How long does it take to discuss a bill, man? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen these guys go on vacation like 4, 5, 6 times already, and nothing's happened. It's ridiculous. But what do we do, right?
I mean, the fact is that they punted on this bill. Basically, it's just a way to do a stopgap. It's a band-aid. It's a huge band-aid, and it's not actually going to directly do anything for most citizens, unfortunately. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Yep. In some ways, like, you have to understand that, like, we're not in power, and we have to force people who are empowered to do something. So that's where Jimmy Dore's position is correct. Like, you do need to force people to do so. It was just a weird choice of people to go after. I think that's what it ends up being. Like, you're telling a woman of color, here, you won this election and you've switched the whole dynamic of progressivism, but you're still not progressive enough, which is unfortunately what the problem is with some of our leftist side, is that they're literally eating each other. Like, there's no reason for it. Like, I do understand the personal attacks that happened, where they came from, but it's just not a good way to go. And I hope in the future that we find a way to have these kind of, this is a normal discussion to have. Like, I'm actually with Kyle. I listened to what he had to say about it. I'm not 100% agreeing, but that's good. You don't have to 100% agree with everything.
I think that's what makes progressives different than a lot of other people. We actually, like, I'm actually agreeing with you. Like, there's certain things that I feel and there's certain things that you feel, and we kind of come to a midpoint where we can actually say, okay, you know what? I can see your point. You can see some of my point, and and I guess that's how we develop something in the future. You know what I mean? But in politics with these people, they tend to be, oh no, you can't do this. That's ridiculous. You're out of your mind. That's too expensive, or all the excuses. But nobody's willing to say, okay, then let me hear your point. Let me see where we can kind of like see eye to eye and work from there. But that's politics, right? That's politics, and that's capitalism and other things that corporatism or whatever you want to call it, that interfere with the flow of actual people thinking about common sense topics, things that everybody should really be focusing on and helping each other. This country could be such a better place. We were great when we were all raking in the dough, but now that things are screwed up, we're going to just point fingers, blame, it's ridiculous, man. I don't know. Anyways.
I mean, now is a good time to even just talk about capitalism. Yeah. So I know, luckily there's no videos for this one, but I just need to tell everybody, just so kind of a report to everybody. I think there's an article at least, but the futures of yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my bad. Right.
No, it's okay.
I just want to make sure I pull the right thing up for you.
So the CME Group's been trading California's water futures. So this has been reported already from a couple places, but what is happening is the futures on California's water index is being launched by the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. The UN is warning that these new water futures may spark bubbles for the vital resource. I'm going to tell you specifically why the water in California is being attached to the stock market. It's joining gold, oil, and other commodities traded on Wall Street, highlighting worries that the life-sustaining natural resource may become a scarce across the world. So it has become scarce in areas like California during actual fires and such and such. So right now they're trying to link that to a source. So I don't want to be too conspiratorial. It does matter because this is the first time it's ever happened. We've never traded water like a commodity, but it's important for farmers, hedge funds, and municipalities alike that are now able to hedge against it or bet on future water availability in California, the biggest U.S. agricultural market and world's 5th largest economy. CME Group January 2021 contracts linked to California's 1.1 billion spot water market. Last traded Monday at $496. So that's like $496 per acre. So it's understandable what's happening. It's a way of tying in the commodities so that you can hedge against it, you can bet against it and gain stock prices on it, but you cannot basically destroy the marketplace by saying the water is now this expensive. You're forcing it to have an actual price. So it's a positive for some agricultural. It's the 5th largest agricultural, economy. So it's really important that we keep water flowing in California, but at the same time, I'm afraid that this is going to be a water commodity across the world. I mean, people are going to be trading on whether the fires are intense, Yep. And I don't want the stock prices and the price of water to go up or down because of fires that are going to happen in California.
That plus pollution and climate change and everything else that's affecting it. Yep. It's a necessity. Everybody needs water, right? So somebody's gonna, I guess some people think that it's good because now people are paying more attention to what's going on, I guess, through it. But the fact that somebody's actually gonna profit and I don't like that a little bit. Part of me thinks that's a little shady. It makes me feel like there's manipulation and other things going on in the background. You know what I mean? That I don't know about. I guess since it's new, I gotta see how it develops.
They've been profiting off of water since the first time they bottled it and sold it for $1, or you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I can still remember being in grammar school and my teacher saying, one day you're going to have to pay for water. You're going to have to pay for bottled water, for clean water. And I remember saying to myself, like, that is crazy town. This lady's crazy. And look at how we are now. Everything, there's bottles of water everywhere. You can't go anywhere. Soon, you're probably not even going to be able to get a free water cup from fast food restaurants. You can't do that either. Everything's going to be bottled. Everything's going to, there's a price tag on everything. What else is new that this is going to be? It's water, it's crazy to think that they're going to be trading it and everything like that. And it's in the stock market, but it's one more thing on the crazy list of 2020, I guess.
I got a question.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, I got a question.
I was going to say, you should watch The Expanse. The Expanse, the first season, talks very specifically. It's about space exploration and in the future, and water is a huge commodity. So it's it's a science fiction level dystopia happening right now.
How do you feel about the whole thing with, how in Newark and in Flint, they have all the water issues or whatever that they had, and everybody had to buy bottled water and all this other stuff. Like, I wonder if that was just a trial run. Like, let's see how these. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't want to sound like super conspiratorial, but you know what I mean. Like, it just seems like certain things. I don't know, man. I've lost so much trust with the way the government's been run, and like these corporations and their willingness to do so much crazy stuff that it's hard to like trust in general. Like, why would why does it take so long to help people that have water and lead in their water and poisonous water or whatever it is? And why is it you can't supply them with free water, like free bottled water? Oh, because it costs something. Okay, so like how many times a week do we buy water? And how much? We buy water every week, right? And maybe like 4 to 6 packs of Yeah, 4 to 6
Two
packs of
two
water.
packs of,
You know, I mean, big ones.
cases
You know,
of
like
water and gallon.
you know, it
gallon
adds up to what, like
containers.
30 something to 40 something dollars, right? Each week that we spend on water. You know what I mean? They just recently fixed our pipes. You know, out here in Newark, which you know, like that's another thing with Cory Booker. He was in office for a decent amount of time, but you know, I'm sure he knew something was wrong with something. You know, because you know it's there, right? Who doesn't know the infrastructure of Newark if you're running Newark, right? You know, so they know that the infrastructure was old, and I'm sure that's and I've seen maps of other locations in the United States. It's the same thing where the infrastructure is crappy, and they haven't done anything about it, just like Flint and everything else. And then they put band-aids on things, and then they make matters worse. Like like I think with Flint, they took water from another source and ended up contaminating more water with it. You know what I mean? It's like I don't, you know. And then you think about it. Okay, how do you profit from it? I think in my mind, some of these people have these little things running in their brain, like little machines running in their brain, saying, "How can we benefit from this as well as make it look like we're helping people?" And it sounds crazy. Maybe I'm wrong for thinking that, but it's like my experiences so far with government have proven to me that these people are not willing to give us stimulus. They're not willing to do things for our health. You know what I mean? And it seems like they're all in bed with pharmaceutical companies, which give us the medicines to help us get better. You know what I mean? Like it just seems like a cause and effect, and at the end of the day, there's a profit for somebody. You know what I mean? And that bothers me a lot. You know, but you know, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm not as conspiratorial. No, I'm not as conspiratorial, but I will tell you there's two things that you definitely got right. So I wouldn't call it a test run, but what I would call it is that the corporate entities that sell water were totally fine with it, with you having to buy water.
Yep.
That's a big goal, and honestly, I mean, you can blame Flint and Newark on past administrations on a federal and state level. The money is very enticing, but it has less to do with the money and more with, oh, this didn't get fixed. It's more money in our pockets. I don't know if Nestle company cares if Flint's pipes gets fixed, but I think the government entities just didn't care about those populations. Yeah. And I hate to say that they're separate. The government entities themselves, those people might be receiving some kind of reward in a way by receiving donations and stuff like that from large corporations, but there can't be a one-to-one. But it's easy if the pipes are broken and nobody's going to do anything, and it doesn't seem like the Obama administration did anything about Flint. Of course, Trump didn't do anything about our entire infrastructure, which needs to be worked on. And I think we talked about it before. I think we talked about how we need to bring manufacturing back. It's not just manufacturing; it's literally infrastructure rebuilds. Yep. So if we get to that point, then we're going to actually get to maybe a place of sanity where you get some drinking water, and but remember, those things are still going to be sold on the market now, because people are going to always buy bottled water now. People are so used to it that like they feel weird when I like go and get water off the faucet. I live in New York, and New York has a much better, it has a pretty good water system. They treat it continuously, and they followed through with it. So I feel safe drinking that water, but there are people who will not drink that water. They will go to a water bottle as soon as possible because that's what they're used to. And I think that's what's scary, is that this is going to be a new norm. And that's the only problem, is that it's going to be a new norm that probably on the US and the world will start selling it as a commodity. Just the last little section here, 2 billion people now live in nations plagued by water problems, and almost 2/3 of the world could face water shortages in just 4 years. Tim McCourt, global head of equity index and alternative investment products at CME, said in an interview. So this is them knowing, as an investment company, that there are tons of people that are going to have water distribution problems soon. So ask me in a year, is there going to be 3 different groups trading water? That's what I want to know. I mean, Nestle is already on the list, so luckily Nestle owns a bunch of stuff, so it never seems like they're the bad guys. I forgot who owns Poland Springs, but another
Poland
larger
Spring
company
is
owns Poland
Nestle's.
Springs.
I'll tell you right now.
It's Nestle's too? Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right?
Nestle's Water North America from Stamford, Connecticut.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah.
They get a lot of our money. You know, the water comes from the sky and they profit from it. Unbelievable. But, you know, I understand. I get it. Coca-Cola is a big water company, too. You know, even though they also make soda and everything.
Yes.
You know. But, yeah, it's crazy. But, yeah. I have a couple of other articles. I don't know if you... I got a couple of other water articles.
Oh, yeah. Which other article did you have up?
Let me see what we got here. I've got this one. I don't know if this is about the farmers, I believe.
Oh, yes. This is about the hedge. So more specifically, while anybody can buy or sell contracts, the market would be most affected for water users such as manufacturers, energy producers, and growers. For example, if a grower knew they were going to need water delivered in June 2021, they could buy a contract and establish a price. The price of an acre foot of water goes up the time the contract ends. They could take the profit off the future contracts to make water purchases. So this is it. It's important that this is about stability for some people. I'm hoping that, unfortunately, it's because it's a corporation that I feel uneased about it. I'm not sure if it's better privatized or if in the public market, but it just gives me some kind of trepidation about the future.
And then I have one more. UN warns about new water futures may spark bubble for vital resources. Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that.
Yeah, okay.
Now we talked about that.
Sure
so
we cover everything. Okay.
Is there anything, Teresa? Do you have any thoughts on this before we move on?
Not really. Everybody's gonna make some money somewhere. It's just such a pain in the ass. And people want to go to bottled water because they don't trust everything that's been happening with water. They know about Flint. They know about the different cities that have had these sparks of lead in their water. I mean, Newark didn't just have lead. It had other chemicals put into the water that were trying to treat the dispersal of lead that was going into the water. So it was trying to limit it. So it's got another cancer-causing substance that's in the water to try to help that. You know, so of course, no one's going to trust the water. And maybe that's a whole big thing too, you know, playing into conspiracies. Maybe that's a whole big thing too, by them putting this whole thing together and making sure everybody knows about Flint and stuff to make you run towards bottled water, run towards, you know, those big jugs for the coolers. Everybody's got a cooler in their house. Nobody has anything that's like, you know, we were talking about getting a whole filtration system to put into our pipes so that we could actually use the water. You know, but nobody wants to do that. It's easier to just buy that pack of water from ShopRite or BJ's or whatever, and then just be with that all the time. Nobody thinks about it until now it's a tradable commodity.
You got to spend a lot of money to get that reverse osmosis machines. You know, like the $500 and better. You know what I mean? That's the only way you're really gonna get decent water. Nobody wants to pay you for that. They screwed it all up, right? They don't want to pay you for that. They don't talk about how the lead and all the other chemicals settle in some of the pipes. So they expect you, like when they fixed our pipes, they said, oh, turn on all your faucets and every 6 months turn it on for like a half an hour so you could flush the pipes. And I'm like, how do I know it's really getting rid of everything? You know, so at this point I have absolutely no trust in what's going on in our pipes. You know, and we still bathing in some of this stuff and, you know, but, you know, they don't want to pay you extra money to get it fixed by a professional, right? To have it professionally flushed out. They assume that just turning on the water is going to do it. What if you have a section of it that, you know, it's stuck in there? You know, you're still going to have these little bits of lead. So we have on our shower filters. We have filters on our, you know, like the ones that, the pure filters on the sinks. We still don't drink the water from there. We just use it so that, you know, if we need to wash certain things or whatever it is, it doesn't cross-contaminate things. But that's money, man. And it's like somebody's profiting off of it because we don't trust what's going on with that stuff. And I'm sure like New York is better or whatever it is. But that's just the same thing to, you know, her mother had spoken to us about in the past. She was like, all the water's coming from upstate New York and it's coming down here and it's clean. And I was like, that's great, but as it travels through all that crap, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like if it doesn't matter how pure it is at the source, if it's going through sewage, it's still garbage, right? So I mean, it's not sewage exactly, but all the chemicals and whatever. And we would get into these discussions. I love her to death. I love her mother to death. But at the end of the day, we would talk about it, and I was like, look, man, like, say what you want to say. I don't trust anything. The minute I moved out here, I've lived out here for like close to 14 years, right? And my first 10 years, I was telling Teresa, I was like, yo, things are kind of like, I don't know, man. Like, it's kind of weird. This water, my skin's itchy now and irritated and so on and so forth. And I couldn't put it together. And I spoke to somebody with the water department about, like, should we get a water test? And he gave me this look like, like you better get it checked. You know what I mean? And this is before they even announced all the chemicals and everything that were going in the water, the problems that they were having with the lead. So they knew, man. I swear they knew. They had to have known. I can't say they knew. I'm just assuming they knew. But at the same time, like, I kind of know they knew. You know what I mean? So yeah, man. That's crazy. But, hopefully, like I explained to you, I have some people out here in Newark that we'll have in the future shows that can, they're affiliated with Ross Baraka and some other people. Hopefully they can give us more insight on what's going on the other end.
Yes.
That we could discuss about it. But we'll see how all that works. Hopefully that'll happen soon. Yeah. So what you want to talk about next?
So you guys want to talk about antitrust? Like, since we were just talking about trusting the government, where the next couple articles are about Zuckerberg, Facebook, and the antitrust suits that are happening.
Ooh, fun. Okay, so let's
I do not have my number up for that, unfortunately. Sorry about that.
The Zuckerberg one is, I think, the 2 or 3, maybe.
3.
3, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's see the Zucksters, man. Zucksters.
Yeah, talk over the Zuckster. Prosecutors, Facebook is sued over acquisitions. So prosecutors say company has used its power to crush rivals, with allegations centered on acquisition of Instagram and WhatsApp, which is the heart of the antitrust suit. The U.S. government, with 48 states and districts, filed parallel lawsuits against Facebook in a major antitrust suit that accuses the social media giant for anti-competitive behaviors and could ultimately force it to be broken up. Specifically focused on Facebook's dominance of the social media landscape, absorbing potential competitors and blocking market access to others that could have eaten its market share. So I brought up the antitrust element of this first because do you even trust this guy? And it's not just this guy. There's a bunch of people. Luckily this is C-SPAN thing had the Twitter guy, the guy who runs Twitter as well. They were speaking more on disinformation, because that seems to be super important to Congress for some reason. Instead of talking about how much control these social media platforms actually have to kind of the way we talk about things, even like we're using Twitch and YouTube. Like, those are major platforms of ideas and how to use them. And we're having real arguments about that. So any feelings about the antitrust element of this? Because there's a little bit more when it comes to disinformation.
A guy that looks like Zuckerberg is not worth trusting. He looks like he's from outer space, man. That guy's scary looking. He used to look more normal. I don't know what it is over time, man. He's turning into something, man. He's going to his final form or something. I don't know, man. It's scary, man. That dude is scary looking. Like, there's something about him. Like, you see that video that you were just, like that dude looks crazy, man. I'm sorry. I don't want to be like insulting him just because of his looks. Like, a lot of his stuff with business, like, I look at it as like the norm when it comes to, people want to know your information so they could sell your information, they could profit off your information, or they could utilize it to get leverage over something with your information. Like, to me, that's the new norm in my perspective in regards to the internet. He just looks creepy. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day. And a lot of people, like politicians and the everyday person or whatever, they have their gripes towards it because of the fact that they feel like it's either intrusive or like when it comes to the other end, you know, like people in general feel like it's intrusive, but on the other end, other people feel like, you know, how come this person's becoming a monopoly and why are they profiting this and that? Why am I not seeing that money? Or, you know, whatever reasoning behind it that they feel like it's not, you know, there's no trust, antitrust or whatever it is.
I think Facebook is definitely becoming a monopoly, though, 100%. And I'm surprised that it's taken as long as it has for this lawsuit to actually be put forward, because they snatched up Instagram, they snatched up the WhatsApp. You know, these were all big popular contenders that really looked like they were going to go after Facebook, and this Facebook giant came and threw money at it enough to get it under its wing, you know. And everything there's so much stuff that goes back to Facebook and stuff like that, you know, especially when you talk about trust and everything like that. They have all these things now that they're trying to fact check a lot of stuff, but then a lot of things are getting passed through anyway. You have this huge like spike now in conspiracy theorist craziness that's going on, that, you know, they're talking about so much stuff that's coming through that's making it look like it's legit, and it's not. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to fact checking, when it comes on Twitter as well as Facebook. There's a lot of things that are getting passed through like it's real stuff, you know. And nowadays everybody's getting their information from everywhere else besides mainstream media. So mainstream media is even struggling too, especially when it comes to their conspiracy theorists. I think Fox is having their biggest problem with them, because that's a lot of their base, you know, with the Trumpers and everything. They're going towards this conspiracy theorists, you know, websites and everything like that. And that's becoming more popular. But now they have to walk that delicate line of actual truth in, you know, in media and whether it's just going to be entertainment value. A lot of these people are believing it, you know, they see it on Facebook, if they see it on Twitter, oh, it must be real. So they got to figure that out. But this monopoly definitely has to stop when it comes to Facebook, because it is 100% everywhere.
I have two views on this. I see the perspective of market share, like why they're doing what they're doing as a business, and like I'm not 100%, like I'm mostly against it, but I'm not 100% against it. Like I understand the reasoning behind it. Like if you can be, you know, if you got Snapchat and Instagram and all these different businesses that are competing with each other, you know, I understand why they're doing what they're doing, but at the same time, with the information that they're getting, what are they doing with it? Are they, what's the word I'm looking for? Are they being truthful about what they're putting out there? Or, you know, because they claim that they're a publisher and they're not really fully responsible about, you know, some of the content that's in there. But then, yeah, at the same time, they want control over everything. There's a lot of different angles to look at it. And some of it I see is justified, because if I was a business person, of course I'd want to get the most market share. If I was, like, for instance, you know, doing something in media, I want certain things, like, let's say I'm a video production, a company that sells video, stock video or whatever it is. I'd like to have stock video, stock audio, stock photos, you know what I mean? Like, I would like to have a variety of stuff underneath my thing so I could also profit from that. It's just consolidating a bunch of different things.
Yeah, but it's stifling technology too when it comes to them monopolizing everything.
Oh, I agree. That's what I said.
They said that there was a lot of potential with like WhatsApp and everything like that to expand, but then it got just absorbed by the Facebook machine, and now that is completely stopped. You know,
they bought it. It's not like they stole it and they just did whatever.
But that's what I'm saying. But, the potential, the people that were behind it had the potential to make that app and make it huge and make it different, and to make it somewhere else. It's like what Facebook is doing with buying up all this stuff is stifling the technology aspect of it, the expansion of the possibilities of what these different social media apps and stuff like that could actually become. They're stifling it. It's like, okay, I bought it and now I'm just going to hold it and not let it grow.
Yeah, do you really think that it's totally stifling though? Because like some of the stuff that they're doing,
all we have is Facebook.
With AI,
all we have is Facebook. That's the biggest social media platform we have. It's like everybody has to have Facebook.
That's the people's choice though. It's like,
is it?
You don't have. None
What
of us
else
have
do
to
you
be.
have? But what
I mean,
else
you
is
either
there?
need
Like
you
don't.
kind of either need in a way either work on Facebook, you either do Twitter or you do Reddit.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed is that there's not a lot of there's not a lot of competition. I mean, Instagram was in there too, but for instance, Instagram, this is a content issue too. I was going to talk about how Facebook becoming a monopoly causes also censorship in a different way, not just from like the people who are saying outlandish things. Like, I am a sex positive person, so Instagram has gone directly against anybody who's a model. So a lot of female pictures get taken down, while the male equivalent of that is totally fine. You can have
Yeah.
a completely shirtless male, and that's
Free the
totally
nipple.
fine.
Yeah.
Free
But
the nipple.
so, it should, and you know, and I feel bad because these are people who are actually doing art too. When they're doing their photography, they're doing kind of multi-layered kind of things. They're doing rope stuff, they're doing pole dancing, all that stuff, and they have to worry about every little detail of what they show, because if it has any incident of sexual conduct, it can be taken down. Or if you, and that also applies to Twitter, where if you say something that is slightly offensive. I just saw somebody that I don't know if you've ever heard of him, Richard Askow. He had his Twitter hacked, and it sent out a bunch of stuff to other people, and he just got out of Twitter jail after 6 months. They wouldn't help him out. He was like, I seriously got hacked. Like, you can tell that I got hacked.
You know,
and it's just the thing is that they want to lower their responsibility. No, it's okay.
No, my thing is, it's like, it's a choice though. At the end of the day, like, I agree with you, like, in a sense of the monopoly aspect of it, that they are running everything. I get that, but it's a choice. It's the people's choice to decide to put up with that. It's the choice of you know, like, if I wanted to set up the next Facebook or the next YouTube or the next whatever, it would be almost impossible because I'm not capable of like providing that type of service at that large scale that they're, you know, at as of now. At some point they were small though, they weren't huge. They just happened to develop into what they are now. Now, I don't 100%, like, I'm not a capitalist person, you know. I believe that everybody should have a chance in life and everything else, but at the same time, if somebody's done something, you know, it's all about intention at the end of the day. Like, if you're using what you have in a bad way, like you said with the censorship of women over men and certain things, that's kind of shady. And that's the type of thing that I feel like, you know, if you're not really into that, maybe you should not be on Facebook. You know what I mean? Even though Facebook, and it's crazy because Facebook and all these other places, they're pretty crappy in regards to how they treat people who want to do their advertisements and so on and so forth. Lately, I've been super pissed with Instagram and super pissed with Facebook and YouTube in regards to how hard I have to fight to get views without having to pay, you know. But then at the same time, it's a free service. You know what I mean? Like it's one thing if you're paying for something and you're getting screwed. It's another thing if you're not paying for something, in my mind.
You're paying for it. You're paying for it for every ad that you get thrown at you, for every time that you've Googled anything, and then that ad comes up that goes and says and is catered to you. You're paying for it every time they listen to you over your phone and tell you and feed you what you want to know, what you want to hear, what you want to buy. Like, you're paying for it. You're paying for it.
Teresa,
in your
that's
privacy.
Everything. That's Alexa. That's everything doing that to you.
Absolutely.
So,
but that's why a lot of us don't have Alexas, and that's. I mean, the real conversation is like, can you stem technology? Can you stop technology from progressing? And you kind of have to get yourself involved in it, because the technology. Ooh, there you go. My camera went a little glitchy on me. But the technology itself. Yeah. Let me.
It's okay. You're okay. It's the band. I could see it on my.
You can hear me at least. So
yeah. You're okay.
Yeah,
it's not horrible.
But the technology itself, like, there you go. Like, it follows the time. You have to process it as the internet is going to happen. Instagram, if you do photography, you're gonna always want to be on Instagram. And it sucks that they got sucked up by Facebook, but what are you going to do? What's your other plan? And your other plans are to get exposure, you have to use Flickr, or, you know what I'm saying? It's always another pay-for-play site. So unfortunately, like, when there's not competition for social media access, Facebook, there's nothing fighting Facebook.
I'm about to start giving out flyers again. I'm starting to think paper flyers and other. Like I was thinking that the other day, I was like, with all the headaches and stuff you got to deal with all the promotion stuff that you got to do with these companies. Imagine bringing it back to old school stuff, putting up posters and other crap. You know what I mean? Like, and gradually building that way, like some really what is it? On the ground type of what do they call it? I forget the name of that they used to call it when you used to go out and like hustle on the streets and
street teaming.
Street teams and like other things like that. But you know,
yeah, man.
I was a street teamer too.
But you know, at the end of the day, it's like that's kind of like what I feel is going to be necessary. And you know, with my businesses that I'm doing on the side from this, my goal is to start gravitating people to my website. You know, doing things to get people there, and then develop it from there. Because at the end of the day, if you're not your own network in this world, they're basically in control of the funnel. You know what I mean? So if you're like, I've heard from other people, basically there's a huge amount of people. You want them to come somewhere. Alexa, Google, all these different search engines, they're the ones directing you to what pizza you're gonna eat, to what what clothes you're gonna buy, whatever it is. If you're not that person controlling that, you're lost in the mix, just like everybody else. You can only give but so many people the resource of the resource of that specific service or whatever it is. In order for you to gain popularity, you got to pay for it now, and you got the gatekeepers, Google and Alexa, and they're the gatekeepers, and that's just the truth. And people are pissed about it. That's not fair. That's not. But it's a free service. Like what? It's not. They are utilizing certain things, but that's how they make their money. That's the thing that you signed up for when you decided to use that service. I don't think it's cool. I think it's kind of shady. But if you're getting it for free, you're not paying for Google. You know what I mean? Like the only way you don't get Google ads is by paying for their premium services, right? The only way you don't, I'm not Google, YouTube ads is paying for the premium services. That's with everything. You got to pay for that extra subscription-based service in order for the thing to not be, for you not to see these stupid things.
But I think that's where you get into the dangers of monopoly. You're not understanding the danger of monopoly in that way, because what it's really doing is stifling that growth. And I really do believe that Facebook is stifling the growth when it comes to technology and social media. It's stifling it. It is collectively buying up these groups, these potential apps that have the potential to be contenders before they can fully grow. And that is what a monopoly is. That we don't want that, because then you don't have any things that come up that actually are contenders, something that might be better than Facebook. We'd still have MySpace if Facebook wasn't allowed to grow. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
So
there's everything has it? But
I'm sorry, do you just disband everything? Like, to just tell people, okay, Facebook is gone,
no
YouTube
one's saying to disband it, but it's something to have to actually get them. It's the same thing with Jello. Let's look at Jello. All right, Jello, the company, owns Jello outside of the United States. It owns everything Jello. It owns Royal, which also makes Jello. It owns all of it. But inside of the U.S., they said, no, you can't do that. You have a monopoly on Jello. We don't want you to have the monopoly. So Royal within the United States is owned by a different company. It's the same thing. You're gonna get your Jello from the same Jello person all the time. You'll never experience any new Jello. It's the same thing when it comes to Facebook. No one's trying to stop them from buying. Okay, yeah, buy more stuff, but don't stifle the competition. Don't try to buy it out before anything's gotten so big enough to actually become a contender. How do you become a contender then? Because then people are always going to be like, yeah, buy my stuff.
And what I would say, this is just the new age Bell Atlantic breakup. This is like where you have somebody who just swallowed up too many companies. And this is the hard part. The FTC did approve those acquisitions. So getting that reversed is very difficult. I don't think that Facebook, even with the antitrust suit with 48 states, is going to lose more than probably WhatsApp, which is the larger one of the two. I don't think they're really going to lose,
but I think it's going to send the message of y'all need to chill. You need to chill, and you're probably not going to get as much as what you're expecting the next time a WhatsApp or Instagram runs around.
Yeah. maybe.
I just feel like
And
there's
actually,
not
this is
much-
actually. Oh,
Go ahead.
finish.
I just feel like there's not much we can do about a lot of that. You know, at the end of the day, when you have the money to purchase other people, not people, but other companies, you know, I agree with the unfairness aspect and everything else, and the fact that it does limit certain things. But then at the same time, consolidation and being able to like get a bunch of different things and make it into something that's more like I think like the actual platform is in most cases is very brilliant to, you know, in the sense of like how it works and how it functions and how it consolidates all these other different things to make it into a bigger thing. And it also gives a lot of people jobs and so on and so forth. So there's certain positives about it. I just don't, you know, and I agree with what Teresa said about the Jello stuff. I get her perspective of it, and you know, I try to be open minded to, like, you know, but at the same time, as all the technology that I've been around in my life, I feel like some of it is justified and some of it is misunderstood. You know, like we spoke to Richard, you know, last time. You know, sometimes it's about the intentions at the end. You know, it's all about the intentions of what the persons are using that technology for. Yes, I think Facebook has some shady behavior. Yes, I think, you know, with certain things with like shadow banning and YouTube and all this other, you know, crazy stuff in Facebook or whatever. But then at the same time, it's like, it's a company. It's all about choice. At the end of the day, it's yes or no. Do we choose to support these companies? And if we feel like it weighs out more towards yes, people are just going to keep doing it until something better comes. I think eventually it's going to die out. I think something's going to happen with these companies, or something else is going to be developed, especially now with AI and everything else, that something's going to be developed that's going to change things hugely. You know what I mean? Maybe Facebook or Google will buy them out too. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I think something or somehow things are going to change and new technology is going to come out and new opportunities and new things, directions. Because I know a lot of people that don't use Google as their search engine, DuckDuckGo and all these other different companies. They might not be as popular, but they still use it. Mozilla and you know, Firefox or whatever it is. People use it for different reasons. You know, that they like certain features about it. You know, the Chromium-based browsers that are coming out. I think what is it? Even Microsoft is using Chromium-based browsers and stuff. And so it's like things are changing, man. It just seems like it's been forever that these people have been running the show, you know. But you know, look
well,
what
that's the point of the monopoly.
Look at MySpace. MySpace. How long did MySpace last? It lasted for a little while, right? It didn't last as long as Google.
It's still alive. It's actually, to be fair, MySpace is still alive. It just changed what it's doing. It's doing it towards artists now.
Yeah.
So that's actually very interesting. That they did lose a ton of share when Facebook became popular. That's just very important to note. But no, they're still around. They just usually now do music, songs and videos. I've never had a link to MySpace in 10 years or so, but it still exists. And I want to, if it's okay, I'm going to move to a different gatekeeper. A different gatekeeper would be like HBO Max now, Disney Plus, Netflix. For me, those are the real they're not social media, but they are media, the devices of media that I think are changing dramatically right now. Mostly because of the pandemic. I believe that the films themselves weren't doing as well as they wanted to in the theaters, but let's just go into it. 17 movies will arrive in theaters and on HBO Max simultaneously, the biggest challenge yet to Hollywood's traditional way of doing business. HBO Max subscribers will receive instant access to big budget extravaganzas like The Suicide Squad sequel, The Godzilla vs. Kong, Dune, and Matrix 4, which is interesting that they're willing to just say Matrix, which is a huge series for them, we're just going to allow it to go to streaming services at this point because we need to assure profits as quickly as possible. So that's another gatekeeper. Disney Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu. Hulu is owned by Disney now. You know, that's something that we need to think about because, as I know, for me, it probably won't affect me as a worker, as an audio engineer. It probably won't do much, but I know for a fact that the actors will be paid less, writers will be paid less, etc.
Well, there's like a huge slew of lawsuits that are probably going to be coming forward because they said that Fox went and made this deal with HBO Max without consulting any of the any of the production. They didn't talk to them about it. They just went and they made this deal, and they're acting like it's supposed to be cool, and it's not, because a lot of these actors have in their contracts that if they make a certain amount of money at the box office, it also will affect how much money they make from this movie. So for them to say, okay, well, we're going to release it in the movie theaters and release it on HBO Max, it's directly going to affect those numbers. So they've got a slew of lawsuits that are going to end up coming their way because of that, because they're going to have actors that are going to come out like Gal Gadot with Wonder Woman. You know she's going to come after them because her contract clearly states that she's supposed to make a certain amount of money depending on how well it does in the box office. And if it's going to HBO Max and it's not like they're paying, they said it's not like they're paying extra to get it like Mulan with Disney did. They're paying the regular subscription service for HBO Max to get access to this movie. So it's directly going to affect their numbers. They're going to have to pay out Gal Gadot and all these other actors that have this stipulation in their contracts. They're going to lose money on this. I don't know who okayed this without going around and making sure all the T's were crossed and the I's were dotted, but someone's getting fired here, and they're going to be paying out their ass.
It's a lot of films though. Like, I mean, the whole platform now, all of these are gonna go to these major. It's just gonna go to Disney Plus and Netflix. So we have to accept that, right? Because that's our gatekeepers now. But yeah, it sucks paying. I pay at least $35 a month for media services that are like Prime as well. That's a lot. I mean, when you add that on to having to have a cable, not a cable bill, but a, internet bill, basically, that really starts to add up over time. And somehow getting the TV being gone doesn't matter, because there's always another way to watch something, right? So that's the future.
How do you feel about did you see The Mandalorian? Do you watch any of that stuff or no?
Oh yeah. Yeah, okay, of course I do.
Yeah.
I snuck it in though. I'll be honest. Nobody.
It's okay. It's nothing wrong with it. I get it. So like they have new technology now that they use screens and stuff like LED, like projectors or whatever it is that they're using to for the background or whatever, instead of shooting a lot of the stuff on site, and it looks amazing. You know what I mean? A lot of the new stuff. So they're able to put out stuff, but less, I guess, actual scene building. And it's amazing, and I don't know if that necessarily saves them money, because I'm sure the technology and rendering the 3D stuff that they're putting in there or whatever probably does cost a lot. But it just seems like now they can just spit out like movie quality home video now, just like we're doing here with this stuff. We're doing pretty well compared to like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, we couldn't think about doing a show like this, without it, having, being in like $1 million production, you know what I mean? Maybe not $1 million, but like several $1,000 production, So at the end of the day, it's like, they're just profiting, man. It's like once they have like the keys to the house, like these big companies, they're balling, man. I think I'm happy for it.
They'll probably be able to save a lot of money with all this new stuff coming out. But they've already made these movies specifically that are coming out. They've already made these movies. They've used the on-site locations. They used the big production. They've spent the money on all the snack that they've had, and they put all out the money up for it, so they're gonna get their money one way or another.
They don't even, I don't think, they barely use chroma keying now. They use the lighting of the actual projectors to make it look natural, instead of doing color grading. I mean, I'm sure they still do color grading and everything with the people and everything to make it look like they're in the scene. But it's amazing what they could do now. They just buy the equipment that does the stuff, and they just keep using the equipment. And when the equipment dies, they just buy more equipment. It's not like they're actually, oh, I need you to go and render this like creature for the Mandalorian or whatever. I mean, they do some of that stuff, but in regards to like, you understand what I'm getting at.
I'm gonna say they go big. They go big.
They
They
go
have
big,
both,
but it's not.
a
I
lot
think
of puppet stuff.
Yeah, I think to some degree though. I mean, I'm not going to say that they're not spending money, but to some degree, it's cut a lot of cost. Because think about the man hours they had to do with chroma keying. Because not every time the key will be perfect, so you'll see little areas that they had to like comp certain things out and fix certain things. It's crazy, man. Technology is amazing. Even the stuff that
I agree with
do.
you 100%. I was gonna say I agree with you 100% because I know one of my roommates is a set builder, and the other one that I know is in New Orleans, and she was doing set building as well as like I don't know if you want to call it production assistant duties, but it's more of like building for the set, so it's a set PA. And she's been doing that, and then everything closed down, and then now she has to worry about. I mean, technology is going to wipe out some of this, but at the same time, maybe the technology is too high grade for some people, so it keeps it so that that's not the norm. Yeah. I'm hoping. I don't know. Like big studios are going to use this whenever they can.
Well, look at the price.
I have no question
equipment.
that a big studio will.
Look at how price of equipment's dropping though. It's like, because if they can't sell it, the price of the equipment's drop, and they still. Look at how many cameras come out each year. Look at how many lighting kits come out each year. You know what I mean? Like everything, there's only but so much. I think the only thing that's really not really changed much is grip equipment. You know what I mean? Like stands and like things like that. Because you need that for holding things and Other than that, it's like the technology. You can get yourself a 4K camera that looks amazing. That's relatively cheap now. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, they said that the movie industry had to find a way to make things cheaper, more affordable anyway, because it just would take one of these huge box office numbers to completely tank at the movie theaters. And now with us having this pandemic, this is a real possibility of them completely tanking that would really take down the movie industry as we know it because of that. Think about all the money that goes into everything, craft services, all this stuff, that they end up spending so much money on these big movies, not just the bloated paychecks of the actors and everybody else, but it's like, of course, this might be the perfect storm, 2020, this giant pandemic, the perfect storm to really pull in the reins of the movie industry and its wasteful nature.
Well, they're doubling down too, man. Look at it. Look at all the stuff that they're making now. They got the Mando stuff. They got the the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie coming out. They're bringing all these people in and trying to they're doubling down on it.
It's 12 shows.
Yeah, man.
Because they know people are home. They're not doing anything. We are in a point where we're just absorbing everything that comes out, which is why we had such a big reaction, I think, too, when the Black Lives Matter movement really gained speed and everything like that with protests, because everybody's home and they're getting, everything is just coming in and we're absorbing everything. You will pay that $35 for your subscription service every month because you want to make sure that you're connected to everything that's coming in. It's just what's happening now to us in this time.
Do you think Ajit Pai leaving soon? Because they said like when what's his face comes in, Biden comes in, you think some of these net neutrality rules are going to change?
No. I firmly believe that those net neutrality rules were what even corporate Democrats wanted. Unfortunately, it does serve the people that they get money donated to, is to have as much strong DMCA kind of actions so that you can't copyright things. They just want to have as much control as possible. So I believe that net neutrality is not even on the table with the Biden administration. I think you might get the internet as a necessary service in 4 years, like at the very end of that. That's my one hope, because it is a utility that would significantly change the way that we work. it would make everything cheaper, because we also gave them a huge loan to put down all that fiber optic line.
Yep.
So like Comcast, all of those people are creating just massive profits off this. And I don't see that stopping right now. I see people starting to think about it, and like the fact is that you can't survive right now without the internet. Like you can survive, but you can't thrive without the internet.
No, I think you're more closer to can't survive. Think about all the kids that are home from school. You know, how are they going to learn? There are kids there. They even had a story about one kid that has to go to school so that he can use the Wi-Fi at school because his house doesn't have the Wi-Fi. He doesn't have any Wi-Fi access, or his parents can't afford it, or something about where he lives that they can't get it. He literally sits outside of school, going and doing the online classes outside of his school. I mean, it has to be put up as a utility as of right now with what we're going through, 100%.
Yeah. So, okay, so a question. Do you want to talk about how this affects China, or do you want to go to a more, I would call it a happier story, with Disney announcing that it has a landmark deal with Kugali?
Let's go to the happy story.
Happy.
All right. I'm good with that. Me too. So you can run that B-roll if you want. There's a bunch of digital comics there.
I believe it's video 6.
Yeah, let's play that first.
An intruder.
The idea was that in the science fiction genre, there were hardly any black people. It was as though they were passing on this message that there are no black people in the future.
What is the meaning of this? Protect the general. Give your life if you must.
Musicians and writers decided that they were going to create their own genre, Afrofuturism, which presents a future where black people do, in fact, exist.
Siki Nelson. Let's see if I can get the names. Yes.
We have a story where someone from Senegal is creating a space opera. He didn't create ships to look like American jet fighters. His ships look like boats, the boats they use for fishing in Senegal.
The way we understand life is through stories. The way we get meaning in life is through our stories. The way we kind of structure ourselves in society is through the stories we tell ourselves.
So what I find so interesting, that's all. What I find so interesting about this story is that it took them 2 years of them going after Disney and going, not like going towards Disney, but like making jokes at them. 2 years on, and Disney, instead of battling Abraham and his colleagues, have announced a collaboration. It's the first time that it will work with African storytellers to create an animated series set on the continent. So that's what's more relevant. It's not just black people doing it, and it's more like, let's explore an entire culture finally. And I know that there's some shows that we have now which have done a pretty good job. I would say that there's some people with criticisms, but Lovecraft Country did a great job doing.
I love the Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's Afrofuturism. Like, yes. I think that's what some people don't quite get. That for me, of course, they're gonna go into the more relevant episode first and second. It was the first and second episodes that have to do with like the Green Book and all this stuff, like crossing boundaries in different states. But the rest of it is a futuristic Indiana Jones, like all those little stories that I wanted a black person to be in. And, you know, that's all I felt like when I watched it. I was like, I feel empowered that I read books that were centered around fantasy and around all of that. And we exist. Like, in a way, it's almost like we exist. We're a group of people who kind of like dorky stuff too.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny, you know, it all has to come back to Black Panther, because that's when they actually started seeing, oh my God, there's so much money in this. Obviously, you know, same thing that they did with Wonder Woman and everything. Oh my God, women want to pay to see this stuff as well as men and everybody else. It's the same thing. So, you know, yeah, Black Panther was a big thing with this, making sure that this happened. You could see that they're trying to actually explore these different ideas now, which is great. it's great. People can actually see and identify with people on screen. It's not just, you know, seeing the same thing, the same tropes over and over again.
Just to add on to it a little bit, Walt Disney's Animation Studios chief executive officer Jennifer Lee said it was the BBC short film about Kugali that caught their attention. She said she was intrigued by Ibrahim's ass-kicking comment. So they were, oh, you know what you should do? You should actually go to the website that they have up. I believe it's in the page as well, because that'll show you some of the beautiful work that they do. Yeah, you got it.
I got you, brother. I always got you.
Yeah, you got me. But I mean, they're saying their talents as storytellers blew them away. So it's great just to see this happen naturally. This is a natural occurrence where they didn't just get bought out. Basically, they were like, no, we're gonna create our own thing, and then somebody actually discovered them and actually felt like, you know what, we have been wrong for generations. Let's do what we can to fundamentally, I mean, I hate to say it, it's a woke thing to do. It's a very understanding of other communities and finally saying, no, we're not satisfied with the way that we've been doing things. Let's allow this is going to be released in 2022. So that's a pretty fast release for one of these things. Especially since I think this deal was only brokered like a week ago, 3 days ago.
This is cool.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's great
that
they finally got
That looks
something
beautiful.
like Disney's finally getting something new. You know, it's just like, I think when it came to like Pixar and stuff like that, that was their last freshest thing that they had come out with when it came to animation and something being different. So now that they're having this as well, which is great, that they're actually exploring new art, new animation styles too.
Some of it reminds me a lot of the Boondocks, kind of like, you know, I don't know if you agree or
I was
not.
gonna say the Boondocks and Samurai Jack just cut into each other.
Yep. It's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, man,
I don't
and
know
it's
if
awesome they have these books. I'm actually gonna come back and like read
Yeah,
these
they
little
got
shorts.
it's
that they have here.
they got 4 free comic books, and then they got a library here, digital comic library. It's a nice little website, man.
And
Look
that
at
also
this,
tells
man.
you
Look at
so
that.
much power in Africa. I mean, that's we skipped the story for today about China and their interactions in rural areas with technology. But look at this. These group of what, you know, they don't look at, I know, African as a continent, but they're from 3 different countries in Africa. And they're all like, it's difficult when it's not, your society is not built around technology, but they were like, no, we love it so much, we love what we see, so let's create something.
They
And
got
it's
augmented-
possible everywhere.
You see this? They got
Wow.
augmented reality
Yeah.
stuff too. Yeah,
Whoa, that is awesome. See, that's what I mean. Technology, once it gets around, it can really be empowering. It's so hard that we live in a society that has monopolies and stuff like that are, you know, gatekeeping us. But
Yeah.
to see that these people went on their own and defied that reality is important. They defied the reality that you can't make it without, you know, going up to Disney first and working for Disney for 5 to 6 years. You know, they didn't go up that chain. They decided, let's create this and then blow them out of the water and force them to come to us.
Working for the rat.
This is nice. It's nice. I like when I see people collaborate together and create amazing things. You know, like whatever team they have there. I don't know much about them in general, but the end result looks beautiful. Their end result.
I'm gonna
looks
say, watch
amazing.
this break Black Panther. Let's watch this break Black Panther's records right there, because it's a cartoon coming out with Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think? How do you feel about it though? Do you feel like there is the word appropriation correct for this? Like, how do you feel? I don't know if it's considered appropriation because it's
On
usually
Disney's
another-
behalf. Yeah, like on Disney's behalf, I don't see it as appropriation because you're actually hiring the people.
That's why I didn't know if I was
beforehand.
using the right word
Yeah.
for it. Like I'm not the most. I'm not gonna say I'm illiterate, but I'm not always great with specific words for it. But how do you feel about it? Do you feel like what do you think their purpose of it is? Do you think it's just to gain a larger audience, or do you think there's like, because you know Disney's a little shady, you know, and their history hasn't
I'm
been
gonna
that
tell you,
great.
it's gonna be awesome. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Obviously. Well, it's kind of like it
all
kind of
about the-
reminds me.
Yeah,
It kind of reminds me too of what was it? The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie that they did. I think that kind of explored new art concept as well. So it's great that they're actually going into something like this. It's, you know, it's really going to be, and it does. It gives you that idea that anybody can really come up with this stuff, and that, you know, even with limits of technology, you can still achieve this. It's great. It's amazing.
Do you think that
I
they've
love how they.
changed-
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Do you think that they've changed a lot from their past, like in regards to the perspective of like people of color? And because I know with Disney back in the days, there were a lot of things about people talking about, oh, Walt Disney was kind of racist and this and that and whatever else. Like, how do you feel like? I mean, even though you look at some of the stuff that they had, like It's a Small World and all this other stuff that they had at you know, Walt Disney, you know, theme park or whatever it is. Do you think that like they're kind of like waking up, and maybe I wouldn't say they're woke yet, but you know what I'm saying? Do you think that some of that stuff is actually legitimately like they really want to kind of like influence people and let people see other you know, what's the word I'm looking for? You know,
Just different viewpoints.
yeah,
Different
viewpoints
different
and yeah,
people.
different people. Yeah, you know, like cultures. That's the word I'm looking for. Different cultures and everything else. Do you think that they legitimately want to do that, or do you really like? Because you said money before, so I know a lot of it has to do with money. But do you think part of it still, just a little part of it, might be like they're trying to like do the right thing, or?
I think people that have been fighting for it a long time in the dark heart of the Mouse House have, you know, finally gotten their point where they're like, yay, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
But the slow wheel of the mouse wheel turning has only gotten us this far at this point. You know, I think with everything that's happened with 2020, I think a lot of corporations are grabbing at trying to feel woke and to make them seem like we are not racist. We are totally about making things more progressive in this, you know, and we want to be part, because cancel culture is a big thing, you know, and Disney doesn't want to be canceled out and claim to be racist or anything. So, you know, a part of me is, yeah, they're big trying to grab at something. But at the same time, I would hope, you know, there are people always on the inside that are always going to be wanting to make things better. But yeah, they're just doing this mostly for money, mostly to get the attention, mostly to try to say we're not racist. Don't look at us. Don't try to cancel us. We're good guys.
I want to say that this is the great thing about unintended consequences, because even if they're just doing it for the monetary reasons, they are still exposing the Kugali and this group of people. So in some ways, the unintended consequences might be more important than me feeling like, you know, yeah, Disney is a kind of an evil corporation. It's you don't have to feel like it's the devil, but at the same time, Disney is ready to suck up every company that they can around them. They just have changed some of the things in their parks, like in the last year or two. You know, this is new work for them. So I want to give them enough platitude to do the right thing, but I also don't want to give them too much credit.
Yeah. Time will tell, right? Like how they develop in the next 10, 20, 30 years. I'm sure they're going to keep going in this direction, because if it's profitable, they're like, hey, why not? But, you know, that's the thing about it, is like you're not really going to know how authentic it is, you know what I mean? Like whether or not they're actually caring or not, or if they're just like, the dollar signs, you know? So it is what it is.
We don't have that many corporations that are anywhere near caring.
Yeah.
Maybe Cheerios.
Yeah.
Cheerios. How about
Cheerios? They put their biracial couple out, remember? And then they got all that slack from their people saying, "I'm never eating Cheerios again." And they were like, "Great, we don't make Cheerios for you."
What about Hallmark there, who's doing the first? They already released it. That first lesbian I guess it's like their first time ever having lesbians in their Hallmark show movies. And that's just crazy to me. But okay. I mean, and they just had like a gay couple last year, and that caused some uproar. But apparently, lesbians are more of a, I don't know. I don't even understand it. I just think that people want to feel sensitive about shit, especially if it's Christmas related or if it's wholesome, quote unquote. There's a lot of policing of what's wholesome, in my opinion, and
Yeah.
I can't wait for that to be over. But I think that that's a little bit of what Trumpism was, too, is that they wanted to harden back to a time where people didn't say certain things if they were the certain people. Like you could say shit in your house, but don't say it out there in the public.
Yeah.
You know, we can't have that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man. It's crazy.
No, go back to your house.
So,
Nobody wants you
Teresa-
outside.
It's true. I don't want anybody outside right now. I have to deal with that all the time. Ugh. So, Teresa, do you have any stories today?
I do have some stories.
Okay,
There's a
let's
huge
do it.
victory for polar bears as the court rejects Arctic offshore drilling project. They were saying
Good.
that after Trump administration gave approval for the project in 2018 to Hillcorp, Alaska, its Liberty Oil project in Foggy Island Bay was immediately slapped with lawsuits decrying the permits. The decision came on December 7th from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. I'm pleased the court today rejected the administration's inaccurate and misleading analysis of this project's impact on the climate, said Earth Justice Attorney Jeremy Lieb. So, we've saved the polar bears for another day.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest thing is that I didn't talk about. Well, climate change is the hardest thing to talk about, because this is coming for them. I hate to say it, it's coming for them, and it's on us. So I'm glad for any positive news about that, because we're
Yeah.
gonna have to do a strong plan to actually save our environment and our different species. We might have to go out of our way and create different habitats for species just to keep them.
Absolutely. They also made Stanford designers making bricks out of fast-growing mushrooms, and that are stronger than concrete. So this has like a lot of science in it. It's like has to do with mycelium, which is like I guess most of what the mushroom is made of. And they're drying it out, and it's making these bricks that they're actually using. They've made a couple of models like archways and stuff, but they're also trying to get a 20 to 30 person home built made out of this mushroom brick. But it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty sustainable. They say it's fire retardant and it's water resistant. So it looks like we can actually live in a mushroom house.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
I one interesting thing is that I watch Star Trek Discovery, and fungi is a big part of that. Like the way that they space travel is with a fungi related engine. That's the only I'm not gonna ruin it for you, because actually if you get to the second season of it, it is actually really good. Yeah, I mean I think that the power of learning the most about our agriculture, mushrooms, all those things is really the future. We're gonna have to learn how to use the materials that we have, because we have been taking out so many materials from the ground already, and that ruins habitats and causes erosion. So we're gonna have to find ways like that, like creating bricks out of mushrooms.
They already make like coffins and stuff like that, which make like really easily degradable coffins, which is great because if you think of how we spend so much money on caskets and everything like that to be put in the ground that they don't even fall apart and they pretty much preserve the body, at least this would help them, you know, of the dirt, come back to the dirt. So
Yep.
they're using it in one way already. And then we have another story is people are loving their homes after spending so much time in them this year. People have been making renovations on their homes, trying to make it more habitable, especially since they've had to do homeschooling and working from home. The study conducted by One Poll on behalf of Thermador aimed to discover how people are rethinking their home environment and the steps consumers have taken to create more purposeful living spaces. So, as a result of these upgrades, nearly 2/3 of those surveyed are the happiest they've been in their homes ever, which is great because you guys are spending a lot of time in there.
I'm gonna throw in a weird thing. It's not. It's since I rent, applying those kind of improvements to my apartment is always a liability because it's never going to come back to me. But I just had another group of people leave the apartment, not my apartment, but the building, and I'm realizing how much the housing crisis and like it's just this is an older building. And unless we get a lot of things fundamentally changed inside, the gentrification of all the buildings that were built in the last 2 years, they're just in better condition. And I would put more into where I live if I felt like it would keep. You know what I'm saying? If they had done a better job, or if they were willing to do more improvements, being my landlord, of course. So I feel like this is a true thing. Like I want to be home most of the time at this point. Even if, I don't feel I love being around and outdoors, but right now the pandemic makes I hate it. So I have to enjoy my home. You have to do your best to just feel at home.
So they say the top home updates of 2020 were updated kitchen appliances, 26%, rearranged furniture, 26%, redecorated, 25%, upgraded home decor, 25%, and upgraded furniture at 24%. So it's not just people that are like, homeowners that can make those big changes, like, changing their whole bathroom out. But yeah, it looks like there's probably a lot of stuff with it when it comes to renters and stuff too. You're rethinking your living situation and how everything is set up, because now I'm spending a ton more time in here, and people had to invent desks pretty much. They didn't have desks in their house to make a work surface for them to work from home, because they were selling out left and right at the beginning of the pandemic of at home stuff. Work home offices were all selling out, so people were creating them out of ironing boards. They were putting ironing boards together. They were taking boxes and making like a surface out of boxes. So I think it made everybody kind of look at their house and like, shit, I need to clean this up.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So I like the fact that people adapted. That at the end of the day, that a lot of people adapted. Some people, they lost their minds, but but a lot of people at least adapted, and that kind of gives me hope. I just feel like it's only like 50% of the country that's like that, which is kind of a scary thought. I wish more people would kind of like see what other people are doing and kind of I think in the past when there was less what's the word things to distract you with, I feel like at the end of the day, they were like, okay, I see what this person's doing, maybe I should try that, or maybe get involved or learn from that. Now it's like, no, I'm gonna focus on my phone and do this and do that, and it's like nobody really knows how to adapt to things like this anymore. It's taken the natural adaptation thing that people had in the past, and it kind of like squished it into something that people don't really relate to anymore. At least that's how I feel. Like I think because I'm kind of an older generation, that I can kind of see things for what it is and kind of like work around things. But I think and I could say some of the newer people do too, but some people are either too old and they don't want to change their ways, or they're young and they're stubborn. You know what I mean? Like, they're just, young and stubborn too. So,
I'm young and stubborn. I'll admit it.
I mean, but you do things like I see how you, at least from my outside perspective, I see how you kind of like do things. Like you function, you want to get something done, you get it in your head and you actually work on it and do it. Some people they get stuck. Like I'm sure everybody gets stuck occasionally, but I feel like you work through a lot of your problems. You know what I mean? And you have patience with yourself enough for you to keep moving forward. I think a lot of people, to compare like this, COVID thing, like, and say that it's like jail or like slavery or like whatever else. It says a lot about a person's feelings in regards to how they adapt to situations. Like they can't handle things well, and it's a shame because there's I think that people should have a lot more help in general to cope. I think we need a lot more mental people that
We
help
need
people.
more mental health services.
Yeah,
It took
mental
years
health.
to get to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
Yep.
took years to get to this kind of like patience about self at all. Um, I wouldn't even call myself the best at it. I would just say that it takes so much, not just adaptation, but learning. It's a learning process to continuously be like, nope, you're gonna fight through this day. You're gonna get through this day. And those are lessons that you learn when you're young, or maybe it's not easy for you to learn that lesson, and it takes a little bit of push from other people. If you're lucky, you have mentors. If you have some structure from your job or whatever you need, because I think that it's different for other people. I know that when I go to work, I enjoy the hustle of the job that I do. I'm a sound mixer, so it is hard for me to like hold a bag. It's hard. It's 30 pounds on my stomach, and like me holding stuff in the air. But when you get the product done, then you feel it. You're like, all right, I just did something with my day.
Well, I think
At the
that's
same
the biggest
time,
thing that you said though is finding what works for you. That's the important thing is people need to find what works for them, and people really need to realize that it's not cookie cutter, it's not one size fits all when it comes to mental health. People really need to reflect on what's working and what doesn't work for them. And just because it works for a lot of people doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for them. And you need to be able to check in with yourself and say, is this working? Am I okay? Is this okay for me? And I think a lot of people before all of this, were willing to suck up and deal with a lot of shit and just take it as that's the way it is. And now that we've come to face with a lot of stuff that we have never had to experience before, it's now we're taking that time to say, this is not okay. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to deal with this situation. I'm going to change things now with the opportunity that's given to me.
Some people, I think, have had like a lot of distractions in their lives, and then when the shit hit the fan, excuse my language, they didn't know what to do with it. You know what I mean? Some people have had crap all their lives, and they've gotten used to the point that it's become normal, and they can, deal with it. Like I always tell Teresa and other people, I have switches in my mind, on, off, yes, no. Like just like a computer works. You know what I mean? Like this, is how I perceive life. If something looks like it's right or wrong or whatever, it's always sort of like yin and yang. There's always one side and then another side, and sometimes there are gray areas that you gotta like look more deep into. But at the end of the day, it is a yes or no decision or whatever else. And that's what's kind of keeping me grounded, like in a sense, like if I feel like something's not right, eventually I'll get to a point in my mind where those switches start toggling, and I'll see, okay, this isn't right, you know what I mean, or I got to do something different here to make this solution sort of like calculating, like how calculators work. Everything, the human mind, I think, is a lot broader than that, but at the end of the day, the fundamental thinking behind it, I feel, is like that. Now, some people don't have the same mental capacity in regards to how to cope with it, like how to, and trust me, I have my moments. Everybody has their moments. We all have our moments. But I think a lot of people that have been in denial for many years, like you have a lot of people in this country that have had this sense of entitlement or a sense of this is how it's supposed to be because this is who I am, or because I'm white, or because I'm black, or because I'm this is the way things are supposed to be. I feel that's given them that delusion that when the shit actually hit the fan, that they couldn't cope with themselves, and that's why people feel suicidal. I think in a lot of situations, why people want to point fingers at other people, even though in reality, a lot of fault is in themselves. And instead of dealing with it that way, they just they just push it aside and blame other people. Some people blame themselves when it's really other people. And a lot of people can't get to that fundamental, in my mind, and that's including me. I'm not perfect. I don't want to like point fingers at other people because I think everybody needs room to grow. Everybody needs, to some degree, therapy or assistance from others. you know, it's crazy out there, and we've been thrusted into like this COVID stuff and everything else, and nobody would have expected it. You know what I mean? When COVID was first announced, I was like, yeah, whatever, you know, then we'll see what happens. And now we're at 300, almost, well, about 300,000 deaths, and we're like, wow, you know,
300,000 deaths. Yeah.
yo, that's crazy, right?
8 months of.
So like, it's gotta. I know this is a cool down. Let me shut up about this. You know what I mean? This is supposed to be the
But,
happy.
I think that's important though that you were saying is breaking what you expect or what you're anticipating is what's supposed to be the norm. I think that's the biggest thing that people need to focus on is what this is not. You don't have to worry about the expectations of what it's supposed to be. Don't think like that because the harder it's going to be on you is if you keep holding on to that idea of what this is supposed to be. We're supposed to be.
Can't be
just because we're supposed
either.
to be all together for Thanksgiving doesn't mean that we should be all together for Thanksgiving. There is a pandemic going on. Same thing for Christmas. Sorry, you know, it's not how. Just because it's supposed to be like something doesn't mean it has to be like that. And people are coming to the point where they've gotten to their boundaries and they're saying, no, I'm sorry, Mima, I am not coming home for Thanksgiving. Or I'm not coming home
I'm not
for
going to bring a
Christmas.
virus home to kill you.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
I will see you on Skype. I will see you on Zoom. I will do whatever and we'll say hi that way, but we are not going, you know. And I think that that's the biggest thing that people have had to come to grips with is what's supposed to be and breaking that supposed to be, break the supposed to be and do what's best for you.
Can't be
So I got a great question for you, Robert. Can you, because it's fair use, I don't know if you have time right now, but on YouTube, SNL did a great sketch maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe I think it's a week ago, where the moms were going after the kids for not coming in for.
I saw that.
For Christmas.
Could you send? Do you have the link or no? Could you send me the link with the?
Yes,
because then I know exactly. Yeah. So you're like, well, while you're doing that, like my whole thing is like I say with the whole, you can't be destructive with things. You have to be. I feel like something that's gonna make things better, or something that's gonna keep things at least the same, so it doesn't get worse. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, oh, I'm gonna go out and do whatever I want to do. This is my entitlement, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, and they don't realize they're prolonging what's going on. Like, I want to go out and chill with my family too.
Yeah,
you
I
know?
had a friend of mine that there was, you know, she said just like, oh, I'm just over it. I'm over this pandemic. I'm like, you might be over it, but it is not over.
Yep.
Things are not
It
over.
is not
Things
over.
are not back to normal.
Sorry, life doesn't
and you have
revolve
to be
around
able
you.
to say, people need to say, no, I'm not. No, I'm not doing this. No, my mental health is more important than seeing people I don't see all year long.
Am I gonna? You think you're not worried about like a strike for like any of
No,
this?
it's fair use because it's on YouTube.
Okay.
I checked
All right.
it. We can play it as a
Okay, all right. Give me 1 second because I'm about to cue it up. Let me just.
Oh, it's all good. It's just this is what I want people to feel, because this is a good cool down. It's funny, and the truth is they're trying to give a. I've watched a couple shows do a pretty good job with trying to come back during the pandemic. I have to applaud one of the worst shows. It's bad. I still watch it. NCIS New Orleans. Doing a pretty good job with this. There's a bunch of shows that are doing. Shameless is doing a okay job with this, because that's really what a lot of people in these environments, they don't want to wear a mask. They don't feel like it's going to hit them, and then it hit all across the country once July hit.
And supposedly there was a CNBC article saying that they're keeping an eye out for it. So I guess that, you know, gave people the illusion of, okay, there's some risk of it, and maybe there is. I don't know. You know what I mean? But it's this whole vaccine's in its infancy stage. You know what I mean? Like, nobody really knows what the long-term effects are going to be. But, you know, and like I said, my cousin said, at least, you know, it's better to get a vaccine than to have this stuff lingering in your body. You know what I mean? And I don't know. The whole thing is crazy, man. I just want this damn thing over with. And people are so damn stubborn in this country that they're just letting it go on and on and on. We had that talk about Australia and the fact that Australia is like down
Yeah.
to zero and whatever it is, and we should be ashamed. The richest country in the world, or at least one of the richest, can't even control itself to the point where it's it's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. But like I said, let's try to be happy. Like that was a funny skit. I just think at the end of the day that it's hard for me not to be serious about things after all the stuff that people have over time have proven to me that they're gonna just keep letting this keep linger. They're like, well, we're all immune. How do I say it?
Being immune to become a.
I don't know, but keep trying to say
it.
Keep trying to
it's
say
like
it.
I took the vaccine and now I'm talking like this. No, I'm kidding. But no, immunization. Like we all want to be immunized. What can I say it? You know what I'm saying?
It's actually inoculated.
Inoculated. Thank you, my brother. Thank you. That's the word. All right, inoculated. No, I don't want to be inoculated. But I'm talking about like if you all get sick, you become immune. That's what I'm trying to say. Is that still inoculated?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
no, that's group immunity.
Yeah, so that's the mentality of this country. We all get it. We'll all get over it. I'm like, okay.
Except for me, Mom.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
And on that note.
So that's a good time for me to come in and say thank you for joining us today. I hope we all grew a little bit from this and all shared how we were feeling about everything going on this week. Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you much, Teresa, for coming by.
Thank you very much. I had a good time again, as always.
Yes,
and I feel like we get some good stuff out there. Thank you. Appreciate all your hard work.
Let's keep going,
everybody.
Right.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Take care.